welcome to Unclouded Eye. I'm Ashley Brooks.
And I'm Ty Gowan.
And we are your source for the weekly astrological forecast and
Cosmic Chit Chat.
Cosmic Chit Chat.
That's more my portion, I think, is the Cosmic Chit Chat.
Yeah, but it goes beyond chit chat. It goes into like legends and lore and strangeness. And
we're going back in time. We're talking about forwards in time. We're talking about space and how it all relates together.
Yeah, it's beyond chit chat.
That's beyond chit chat.
That's not small talk.
That's not big talk.
Well, I think that's why cosmic chit chat is still like big talk.
I think it's still big talk.
You know, because it's cosmic.
We're inviting people into our Cosmic Chit Chat.
Yes.
Question for you this week.
Okay.
I know we're like coming up towards the end of the year, right? And I don't want to do this later because we're going to get towards the holidays, but I can't use my left hand forget I cover your face. Sorry, anyone watching the video can see that like this is when I get yelled at by the producer. But so I'm using my right hand. So
Okay.
What is the best horror movie you've seen this year as we're starting to close out?
This year? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Can you go first?
Can I go first?
Yeah, I need time to think about it.
Oh my God, actually, I don't know if I can because I know I saw Barbarian this year, but did it come out this year?
I think it came out the year before, like during the pandemic or something.
Okay, I'm gonna call it as that's the best movie that I saw this
let's
year.
say recently.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, because
So Barbarian's mine, just because I think the end got kind of crazy and off the rails, but all the way up until the end or whatever, I'm not going to give anything away. I love a movie that I can't predict what's happening, and the twists for that one as they go further down into the house and deeper.
Oh, yeah.
There was not a part of that movie that I could see coming. And the other one that I won't recommend to people, but I can't stop thinking
You
about.
talked about this one with me multiple times, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And
I still have not watched it.
I'm not going to recommend it to you.
Okay.
But it's Skinamarink.
Okay.
I'm just, if I tried to explain anything about it, it would lessen the effect of the movie, I think. So those are my two best horror movies I saw this year.
Okay. I thought of one, and I think it came out. I can't remember if it came out at the end of last year or the beginning of this year. So forgive me if it came out in 2023. But
It's when you saw it.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
Talk to Me.
Talk to Me. I've heard that was good.
I really liked that movie. I thought it was really well done. I've seen mixed reviews about it online, but it was really cool. So it's Australian, and I kind of liked that I didn't know any of the actors. Like sometimes that can make it feel more real or something. Like you're sucked into it. You're not like, oh, that's the person from my old favorite show. You know, like there's just a complete surrendering of any of that. And for anyone who's not familiar, it's about this group of teenagers who come into possession of this kind of disembodied hand that belonged to a medium that's been kind of preserved.
Okay.
And they do these parties where they all take turns gripping it and say, talk to me, and a spirit will come through, and they invite them into their bodies, and they're live streaming it.
That's so topical for today's subject because I will be talking about seances.
Perfect. Yeah. This is like a modern kind of TikTok era seance, but the way that the movie ends is just masterclass. Like
Okay.
I thought it was so good.
And now I'll ask the question, what is your favorite horror movie of all time? Can you do that?
Can I do that? I might need to sit with that for like 30 seconds to a minute if
Sure.
you want to tell me what yours is.
Yeah, mine is The Orphanage by, I think it's Guillermo del Toro. It's in Spanish and dubbed or subbed, whatever you prefer. It just horror-wise, it's not the scariest thing I've ever seen, but it is honestly one of the best stories I've ever seen. It's a mystery. It's heartfelt. It's about a family looking for a child who has gone missing from a party in this haunted mansion that they've just removed back into. The mother in the movie grew up in an orphanage, and it had closed down, and she moves back into the orphanage with her family to open up basically a school for special needs children. And they're living in this basically building that haunts her from the past, less so than ghosts, right?
Yeah.
So the memories haunt her of what was there. And during the open house for her business that she's opening, her son goes missing in the house. And it's spectacular.
Yeah. I watched this with you, I think, when we were like in college or
Yep.
something.
I've seen it no less than 10 times, I think.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really well done. I love Guillermo del Toro, like so much of his. Did you watch his Cabinet of Curiosities?
No, is that?
Yeah. So he has this show. It's almost like kind of how like Alfred Hitchcock presents, like that type of style. But it's a bunch of different filmmakers that produce like these little like short movies that he kind of introduces. And it was really cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, something fun to check out. I've been thinking about your question, and it's hard because horror is my favorite genre. And so I have so many favorite horror movies. I'm finding it really difficult to just pick one.
Okay.
So, like I can give you like a one from different types of subgenres of horror.
Let me give you a subgenre then.
Okay.
And then maybe this can be a topic for another time then.
I might have to sit with it.
So let's do a slasher.
Okay. Halloween, 1978. Yeah, Halloween, I mean, it's like a kind of an obvious choice, but it's really, I love the fact that it takes place in one night. There's such a tangible feeling of unease in the air and just kind of watching this group of friends like move through the night. It feels very Halloween night. I mean, like it's such a good movie to watch on
Halloween night. I just did it this past Halloween.
Yeah.
It's one of my absolute favorites.
It's really well done. And I also really like Halloween 2 because it takes place like immediately after the first movie, even though they filmed it a couple years later, but it's pretty seamless in its transition. And then it mostly takes place at the hospital where Jamie Lee Curtis's character is recovering.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then I actually really like Halloween 3. There might be some people that are like, oh my God.
That's a weird one.
It has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Right.
And I think that's why people don't like it, is because it's probably should have just not been called one of the Halloween franchise.
Yeah,
but
Season of the Witch.
yeah, it's just like that fits into the like campy, ridiculous horror.
Which is some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love camp.
I love a good like weird 80s campy horror movie. I love all horror, except I don't really like super like torturous horror. I don't really like Saw. I don't like Hostel, things like that.
Same
I'm not
here.
into it.
I've watched Saw. I've watched Hostel.
Even like Terrifier dips a little too much into that world for me.
I didn't even try Terrifier because the
clowns. Yeah.
It's going to work on me.
Yeah, it is terrifying. I mean, like I watched the first one and, you know, I'm not going to like turn it off. I'm not like scared to like look at it. It's just not my favorite thing.
Cool.
I prefer the suspense and like the lead up to stuff rather than like the actual killing.
I know that we're in the holiday season, but I think we should continue this chit chat next week too. I want to know more about your horror picks.
I will talk about horror anytime.
Perfect. Let's do that. But right now, let's jump into the astrological forecast for this week.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're talking about December 9th through the 15th, and it's actually not a jam-packed week. There's a few things happening, but it's not as busy and kind of all over the map as last week was.
Okay.
So Tuesday, December 10th, we have Venus sextiling the north node of the moon at 2:30 a.m. Eastern time. And
the dragon's head.
Yeah, the dragon's head. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So with Venus sextile north node, we might be meeting new and influential people this week. There could be some new contacts being made. You might make some new friends or meet somebody that you're going to be networking with, or a new relationship could blossom. There's definitely some newness coming in, maybe some new creative ideas as well, or a new creative partnership being birthed.
Okay.
The sun is also trine Chiron on this day at 12:49 p.m.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sun trine Chiron is really nice. This can help us to feel more confident, more sure of who we are, and okay about kind of putting ourselves out there in the world. The sun kind of rules over our personality, our confidence, and Chiron's bringing healing to that realm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like the healthiest thing that could happen.
Yeah,
right?
It's really nice because it helps us to feel more in line with our true self.
Yeah.
Thursday, December 10th, we have Venus opposing Mars at 5:46 a.m.
Aphrodite versus Aries right here, right?
Yeah. So Venus is in Aquarius. It moved into Aquarius last week, and Mars is still in Leo. It's currently retrograde. If you remember, it went in retrograde last week. So Venus opposite Mars is a transit that can produce some aggression, some passion. People's tempers might be up, because Venus wants to be very civilized. It wants things to be very harmonious and just beautiful and easy and free of conflict. But Mars does not want any of that. And it wants to stir things up. And it wants, if Mars is angry, everyone's going to hear about it. Whereas Venus is like, maybe we should wait till after dinner, and Mars is going to be like, no, everyone's going to know.
Thanksgiving's ruined.
Yeah.
Your crazy uncle said the thing he said he wasn't going to say.
Yeah. So Mars is at odds with Venus on this day. So they're kind of going back and forth. So Venus is trying to smooth things out. You might be trying to smooth out conflict, but then there's also conflict that just keeps springing up. It's like whack-a-mole. You deal with one and then another one pops up.
Okay.
So you might also just find that you're impatient, a little annoyed with people. There could be some like heightened passion between people, but it just kind of creates arguments too.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah, we love that.
You love.
So Friday, December 13th, we get a Friday the 13th in December.
Was that the second one this year?
I think so. I think there was one a couple months ago.
I always have great Friday the 13th. I
love-
just put that vibe right out there.
Oh yeah, ever since I was a kid, I always enjoyed those days.
Same here.
I remember this is only going to be interesting and mean something because you know me, but maybe you can convey to the viewers and listeners like how weird this is. But I remember there was a Friday the 13th in high school when I was in like 9th or 10th grade, and it was like a spring day and it was gym class, and I got picked first to be on somebody's team in gym class.
Okay.
So
I mean, I'm not going to put I'm not just I would say that you might
I'm more middle of the road, I'd say.
I would say you're going to put a good effort in.
Yeah, I'm going to put in a good effort. I wouldn't be chosen last, but I wouldn't be chosen first. So I
would be chosen last and consistently did.
So I'm chosen first, and then we're doing softball outside because it's a beautiful spring day. And somebody's like, Ash, why don't you try pitching?
You're like, I would love to.
I'm like, I'd love to. I pitched a perfect game.
Amazing.
Ty, I pitched a perfect game. Like
that's amazing.
And I've just got to say, like, I did play softball when I was in middle school, but I wasn't. Having a strong arm isn't one of my top strengths in life.
You peaked on Friday the 13th, 10th grade.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what that was, but I am chasing that feeling forever.
You know what? I was probably in the same gym class, and I'm walking around the track because that's what I did instead of sports. I didn't want to do it. I just did laps, and I think I had a gigapet or something. Oh my God, you know what it was? It was a nano pet, but it was Pikachu.
Oh, that's fun.
And you could clip it on your belt, and when you would walk, it would generate amps. And so that's how you would feed your Pikachu or whatnot.
That's fun.
So everyone would be playing softball, and I would just do my laps on the track because I didn't want to get involved. Yeah, that's right.
All right. So Friday the 13th this year, we have Mercury sextile Venus at 2:45 a.m. Eastern time. This is nice.
Get Mercury.
Yeah, this is good for communication between friends, good for socializing, kind of batting around ideas, just a nice, positive social day. It's very different from Wednesday. So the vibe of the week is picking up.
Yeah, good. Mm-hmm.
Then we have Sunday, December 15th. We have a full moon in Gemini at 4:01 a.m. Eastern time. The full moon in Gemini is really good for generating new ideas because Gemini governs ideas. It governs the acquisition of knowledge and having a lot of information at our disposal.
Okay.
So a full moon is going to help us to manifest those things. So we might get new ideas, or we might find this is a really good day to find information, things that we've been curious about. It might be a good time to talk to somebody. You might find that you get what you're looking for with that.
It's Veronica Mars Day.
It is Veronica Mars Day.
Do some investigation.
Yeah, we've got something that we're working on, so this would be a good time to get to.
We're hitting the library on Sunday then. Mm-hmm.
And then Mercury Retrograde ends that day too.
Congratulations. Welcome back to us, Mercury.
So this is a really good mercurial day because this happens at 3:56 p.m. Mercury stations direct. And we have a full moon in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so just really perfect energy for that. And you might find that ideas start to come in more clearly. A lot of fog kind of lifts, and you might find that some delays could be reversed around this time. So if something you were waiting for, you might find by that Sunday or Monday that it suddenly comes your way.
Cool. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's a good week overall, aside from that weird Venus opposite Mars.
Yeah, calm down, Mars.
Yeah, don't keep arguing with your uncle at the dinner table. It's not going to get you anywhere.
Win. Yeah,
no.
Never going to win, regardless of the celestial pattern.
Yeah, no, in general, family dinners, conflicting
Choose
beliefs.
Venus.
Yeah, just let's just all
be Venus in that
let's
situation.
just eat our food. You want some more potatoes? Let's fill your mouth. You can't talk.
I don't want to hear about your opinions. I just want potatoes. Yeah. That's really how I feel.
I want that on a shirt. My mom's probably going to get us one for Christmas.
I don't want to. Yes, I would love that. I would proudly wear
I
that
don't want
shirt.
your opinion. I just want potatoes.
Yes. Yep. Oh, man. Well, are you ready to dive into my topic today?
I'm so ready.
So like I said, it's seances is what we'll be talking
I love
about
a good
today.
seance.
So, and I'm diving into this because I was like obsessed with seances when I was a kid. My aunt, who has since passed away, she came over for a family dinner maybe when I was in junior high, and she told us that her and her girlfriends had a seance, and it's the first time I had heard that word, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, tell me everything, and she did, and it was fantastic, and I never really left my mind until I would say high school. And then I'm watching Rupert Giles on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'm watching him cast a circle to begin the seance. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So Ash, do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about our seance in a moment?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna explain what a seance is first, and then we'll go into that story. Okay.
I love that word. Is that what is that French?
It's a French word.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It means meeting.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
But in occult terms, it's a meeting of individuals who unite with a similar goal to contact the dead. And like we've seen a ton of examples through Hollywood. So I think the expectations are overhyped a little bit, except my first seance experience was a bullseye of what you would probably see in any given movie. And I experienced it with you and your mom in your cousin's house.
Yeah, I don't think I've experienced anything quite so intense before or since.
Exactly. Not in the seance sense. Like,
No.
I've also learned to protect myself a little bit better after that night too.
Yeah. Yes, you want me to share that story?
Yeah, if
Okay.
you don't mind, or, in brevity, because I know it was a whole thing.
Yeah, I'll do my best. So you at that time we were in college, and you were doing some kind of paranormal investigating for the newspaper or something there?
Exactly.
Okay.
Just trying.
Yeah, just you were learning. And my mom and I have always been spiritual, and we were, my mom's very sensitive. If you go back to the psychic sensitivity episode that we have, I talked a lot about my mom's journey with her psychic ability. So we decided, because my cousin was living at home with her parents, and the house was very haunted, and it was starting to creep her out a lot, and she just kind of wanted some answers to know more about what was going on. So we got her permission to go over there and kind of just do a little investigation. So we walked around. It was you, me, my mom, and my cousin and her downstairs neighbor. It was like a duplex. So we were all walking around. We were taking pictures. We were just kind of getting a feel of the place. And then we decided, okay, let's do a seance to try to figure it out. So we sat.
Ad hoc seance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the kitchen was one of the hot spots. So we sat in the kitchen together, and we all held hands, and we kind of like did this whole meeting of the circle.
Made our circle, just
made
like
our
Rupert
intention,
Giles.
put out protection, made sure nobody let go of each other. Like, let's hold the circle. And I think my mom was holding a pendulum like in her hand, that she was holding somebody else's hand, maybe mine.
Yeah.
And the pendulum like started to swing as you were kind of addressing whatever was there. And there was this sound, I think, of like footsteps on the basement stairs. The basement door was right there in the kitchen. We heard cabinets rattling.
Mm-hmm.
We heard, did we hear talking?
Yes.
Yeah, there was like
the
the
next
sound of
room over.
Yeah, there was a sound of voices. At one point, you saw what looked like a tall man in the corner
That's
manifest behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even say anything about it at the time, but I leaned forward, kind of like freaking out, like curling into myself as you saw him lean over me.
I will never, in my mind's eye, I will never get that out of my head of watching a form bend over you. It was like it was trying to look at your face from behind, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And just like the shock of being like, is this really happening? And watching him bend over you and watching you almost like a repulsive magnet trying to get away without letting go of anyone's hand.
Yeah, and without even knowing that was happening, because you didn't communicate that you had seen that until after I did that motion.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then we tried to get, like, you were trying to get an answer about who was there. And I think we figured there was an older couple there, like a man and a woman, and that they had died in the house.
Yep.
And then we asked how the man died, and you got all choked up and you were like coughing. You couldn't breathe.
I couldn't breathe.
And then the answer was emphysema.
Exactly. I think we did a little bit of research after that, right?
Yeah.
And found out, because I remember seeing he had passed away in the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah,
So-
there was a lot of weird stuff with the bathroom. Stuff would go missing in there. I remember one night I was spending the night there and I put my contact lens case on the bathroom sink while I was like washing my face or something. And when I looked, it had moved and it was like up on top of like a high cabinet or something like that. And stuff like that happened all the time there.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I do remember that feeling though, and the kind way that your mom kind of like walked me through it to just be like, this isn't you, this isn't what's happening, but man, what an experience to like go into and just be completely open.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I don't know that we didn't really do any seances when we were doing Haunt Me, our show.
Right.
Just because, you don't necessarily want to open a circle like that in somebody's home without consent. And also that can be very exposing to people, especially on camera.
Yes. And also too, with Haunt Me, there was always the focus of translating what we were experiencing to viewers.
Right.
And to do a seance on film, there has to be so much trust between you and the viewers.
Yeah, because it's like you could be making all this up. And for us, then there was none of that. We didn't have to worry about impressing people. We were just experiencing something as a group.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like I think that the only thing that would be that would work well for us, to film a seance would just be like understanding that we're terrible actors,
Yeah.
So you would know if we were lying, but like that only goes so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people would have a million excuses for what we saw.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
What we did that night was considered a social seance.
Okay.
And there's actually just a couple of different types of seance
that.
versions based on what you're trying to achieve.
All right.
So there's religious seances. They're part of a belief system like those that are done in Lilydale, New York by spiritualists are considered religious seances, as well as the aspects of voodoo, like we covered in an earlier podcast this past summer.
That would be religious.
Exactly, because voodoo is all about communing, contacting, and taking in that spirit.
Yes.
Then there's a mediumship seance where one person acts as a conduit between the communicators and the other side. So kind of think like Madame Leota at, the Haunted Mansion at Disney. Like,
yes.
Like tambourine from beyond, like that. That's Madame Leota. That's with her mediumship seance. And then in the height of spiritualism, you might see mediums like this doing like spirit photography while they're in a trance. Leaking, yep.
Yeah.
From the nose, the mouth, the ears, summoning knocks and noises in the corner. That's that same one. And then there are spiritualist seances. And these are generally where there's like a room of people in a circle so that anyone can participate if they want to. And they everyone as a unit reaches out to the other side. Okay. And one person leads that. So
is that's what we were doing, or were we doing a social seance?
We were doing a social seance. Okay. Yep. This one is more of like has a focus. The social seance is a group of, people.
Just kind of seeing what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say the last one, because we recently spoke to Aidan Sinclair on the Halloween episode, is a theatrical seance.
Okay.
Where you go into it knowing that it's staged.
Yes.
And I think that is a really responsible way of doing what a lot of maybe spiritualists did not,
Right. They claimed it was a completely real experience.
Totally. And so as like a spiritualist medium, Ash, would you rather channel a spirit who decides to communicate by expelling ectoplasm from you, or one that only speaks in a whisper?
Like just in the seance, or like
just in the seance. So it's talking to you and it's just kind of whispering in the back of your head and you can barely hear it. Or one that makes you do
the whisper. I don't want stuff coming out of my face.
Oh, I would rather it be loud and have ectoplasm come out of my nose.
Have they ever figured out what ectoplasm is?
A lot of times it's been almost completely debunked as just photo manipulation.
Yeah.
Except there are some people who say that they've seen it happen, and like I don't want to take that away from people, but a lot of the pictures that I found, for this episode, it definitely looks like a double exposure to me.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I just don't love the thought of stuff like expelling from my face.
I mean, I don't either, but I also don't want like a creepy little whisper in the back of my mind the whole time.
It's better than like them yelling at you.
Oh, I want the yell.
You do?
I think maybe it's because I have a hard time hearing anyway.
That's
so
true.
I'd rather just want the information right up front.
Yeah. I feel like a gentle whisper. It's like polite. It's almost relaxing.
Yeah, it's the ASMR seance.
Yeah, exactly.
So mediumship, trancing, and channeling are all different types of techniques that are used in seances. And if you're going to do this, definitely caution about just opening yourself wide up. I learned that night with the seance that we had.
Salt circle.
Protect yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
It also, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
Yeah, just kind of putting out the intention, like I only wish to connect to the light, like something like that, saying that your intention is positive. You don't want to let just anything, like don't be like, are there any entities that want to come talk through me? Like probably don't put that out there.
No, this is your body and this is your time. You know, it got room for one. So inviting something else to talk through you is, I think it's risky.
Yeah, you don't necessarily want to do that if you're not experienced. And even then it can be risky.
So seances were really popular in the Victorian times, and there was that sense of risk then too, which is great. So that's why talking boards became really popular.
Yeah.
And it was cool because like what we know as a Ouija board now, talking boards were so popular in the Victorian times that most people had like a parlor room for them. You'd have a dinner party and you'd sit down for maybe 15 minutes to use the spirit board and you'd walk away. It was really commonplace, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Other techniques that you would use are kind of trying to like trust someone implicitly, you know, to be that channel, or like to try to ask for a sign in the room that, you know, knock this, make that noise. And kind of all this stuff happened during the spiritualism movement. And you could find people who were legit, and you could find people who had seen the legit thing and learned how to fabricate it. Like the Fox sisters, people thought they were legit for a really long time, and then they found out that they had a unique way of like knocking their joints to make sounds happen. So if you're going into a seance, I would really ask people to be focused on their intent. Don't be grieving when you're doing it, and keep your eye open to make sure that you are having an authentic experience.
Yeah, trust the people you're with is probably the most important thing, because, you know, when we were doing our seance, if any one of us had said something weird, like I wouldn't have been like, oh, Ty's making it up or my mom's making it up. I trusted everyone there implicitly.
No one had like ulterior motives.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it gets a little risky when you're doing something
when
like
you add a camera and suddenly you're letting people in on it.
Do you know why seances got so popular in the US in the late 1800s though? Because there was a surge.
Was it because it was maybe because more people were dying, like
because
around that time.
There's had been a mass death event, you know, and so
a lot of people were grieving.
Exactly. So the height of that was, you know, spiritualism in the US, seances, metaphysical practices. People were grieving. There was a huge loss of life, and people were trying to reach out to the other side because just the community had brought a solution to the death problem, if I'm going to make a general term there.
Right.
And so people were willing to, you know, give a lot to speak into that. And like, I think I read a stat that there was like somewhere between like 4 and 11 million people identified as spiritualists at that time.
That's wild.
And it dropped off.
Huge portion of the population.
People were grieving. And then, you know, thanks to Houdini and others like him, you know, it really dropped off after that. And people kind of, you know, got back into the logic in the everyday life. But one person that we're going to talk about today is someone I think very prominent in U.S. history that went all in on seances and spiritualism.
Okay.
So we're going to do December 13th, 1818, Lexington, Kentucky at 6 p.m.
All right. So first things first, we got another stellium here. We've got a Sagittarius stellium in the 6th house. So we've got Mars, Uranus, the Sun, and Neptune all conjunct in Sagittarius in the 6th house. So let's break that down.
Okay.
6th house rules over work, daily routine, health. So you've got all these planets that are putting a lot of concentration on the daily routine, but they're in Sagittarius, which is a very free-spirited sign. So this is somebody who doesn't want to work a regular job. They don't want to be bogged down by like the normalcy of society.
Right.
They probably would be more prone to want to do seances. That's abnormal. That's something that's outside of the realm.
Makes sense to me.
But it doesn't mean like they're not a hard worker. They just need the space and time to do it and like do it the way they want to do it.
Yeah.
Mars conjunct Uranus, very unusual thinker, somebody that thinks outside the box. You've got the sun flanked by Uranus, which is going to give them a very open mind, a lot of different ideas. And then by Neptune, which is going to make them very imaginative, very intuitive, and a storyteller, possibly. Like, it just seems like it's lending itself to a lot of Sagittarius energy, can give like storyteller vibes for sure. Now, they have Chiron and Pluto conjunct their midheaven in Pisces. So this suggests that their legacy might have some potential, I don't want to say like defamation, but there could be like something about it that's maybe like.
There is.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a little bit like somebody was trying to harm their reputation actively.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I think, unfortunately, it's kind of lasted a little bit.
Yep. Okay. That doesn't surprise me. This feels, because the midheaven is our legacy in our lifetime, but it also can transcend that in terms of what we're remembered for.
Right.
And it's got Chiron there and Pluto, which would suggest that somebody was kind of like coming after it.
Yeah, this person was very elevated in society, and during their lifetime was diminished to the local crazy person. You know?
Checks out.
Okay.
Checks out. So they have Mercury conjunct Venus. There's a lot of kindness here. Their Mercury conjunct Venus is in Capricorn, though. So even though they are kind, they might not have come across like as warm as they actually were inside.
Okay. I mean, I don't have that firsthand knowledge,
right?
But but
it could be like a fun factoid to like add on to this. Like,
definitely.
Because anyone listening too, if you have your Mercury conjunct Venus in Capricorn, sweetheart energy, but you might, have like a very stony face while your like heart is swelling inside. So
okay.
That is that type of thing. And it's opposing the ascendant, which would make relationships very important to them. Connecting with other people was important, but at the same time, it wasn't, their way of going about that wasn't the average way. And they have their moon. Okay, yeah. So Mercury and Venus are actually opposing the moon and Black Moon Lilith in Cancer as well. I'm wondering if there's something to do with their mother. There's something weird with a mother figure.
Could they be the mother figure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some kind of maternal energy that's so when I originally looked at this, I was like, mom issues was the first thing I saw when I looked at this.
Yep.
And that could mean, though, that they were estranged from their own children as well. There's something to do with maternal energy and it not being understood the way that it was supposed to be.
Wait until you hear.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I literally have no idea who this is. So I'm going in blind.
This was suggested by community manager Aaron Cross.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm really thankful for, because I had heard strange things about this person. And this person's a sweetheart who went through it.
Okay. Yeah.
That damaging legacy, is kind of what we have right now. So we'll clear up some myths of
so many Pluto squares.
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Oh.
Good old Mary Todd.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah, she was a mother with a lot of grief in her. So
yeah, okay.
We'll dip into that a little bit.
All right.
But she had a very unique life. And she was a very powerful woman, I think, because she wanted to be, and she did things her way. So that was pretty cool.
Yep.
We're lifting it up for Mary Todd.
Okay. Love it.
So she was born into a family that was pretty well off. And she was the fourth of 16 children.
Oh my God.
Her mother died when she was just 6 years old.
Okay. Possible mom issues.
Possible mom issues right there. And her father soon remarried. He was a prominent businessman and politician. His name was Robert Smith Todd. And he was able to pour resources into his children, giving them like a premier education.
All 16?
I think specifically the girls.
Okay.
So he wanted to raise the girls' social standing so that they could have their prime choice of husbands. Mm-hmm. Like that was his job. That was
back then daughters. For sure.
She was adept at schooling. She was given an intense education because she was good at it. And she used this to help schmooze with political guests that would visit her father's mansion. She really kind of learned the tricks of the trade. So she loved meeting influential people, and she soon realized that she had a knack for politics, and she really enjoyed it. And it was this common interest of politics and meeting people that allowed her to fall in love with Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
However, when she was courting him, her dad was not all about it because Abraham Lincoln was poor. And so when she married him, she fell in stature quite a bit.
Oh,
He
wow.
was far beneath her level.
Not for long.
Not for long. Didn't see that coming.
Oh, I just gotta say, like, she's a Sagittarius, he's an Aquarius. That's like a very compatible couple.
I love it. Then
Yeah.
it seemed like they were a really good team
Mhm.
because she was able to help him with politics, which is ironic. She could whisper in his ear about social situations and give him political advice because she had lived it. She grew up that
Yeah.
way. So she was able to host parties. She gave him advice, and she's actually credited with helping him earn his presidential victory. And she became the 16th First Lady of America.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, this is when it going to start getting a little dark for Mary Todd because the Civil War was right up on him. And the house was divided amongst her family. I didn't realize this, but 6 of her siblings supported her and her husband in the Union, and 8 of them supported the Confederacy.
Oh, wow. Well, when you have 16 kids, I mean, there's going to be some difference of opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of people.
So with the pressures of the Civil War mounting, that's unfortunate enough, but she also starts losing loved ones in her life. So the mother thing that I think maybe was at play here, let me know if I'm off base at all, but her first child to die was Edward at age 4 from tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. And then Willie at age 11 from typhoid fever. And then this happened just a few years before her husband was assassinated on April 4th, 1865, which just left her wrecked and grief-stricken.
Did she have any kids left?
She had, I think, 2.
Okay.
2 left. At this point, she poured herself into international travel, spiritualism, and her youngest son, Tad.
Okay.
Tad dies next.
Oh,
so
okay, that's definitely what we're seeing here with the mother stuff.
Yeah, and he was I think it was just after his 18th birthday, and only 6 years after losing Abraham Lincoln. So now it's her and 1 kid that's left, and that kid decided to institutionalize her. Because spiritualism was running wild in her, and he didn't like that. So he put her in Bellevue Place Sanatorium, and she resented it. And so she spent much of the remainder of her life traveling in Europe before she realized that she was on her way out. And in 1882, she traveled back to America to stay at her sister's home because she wanted to pass away where her and Abraham Lincoln got married.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's so sad.
So let's dive into that spiritualism, though.
Yeah.
I have some bullets here for you that I thought was really interesting, especially given this really driven woman.
Yes.
So after her son's death, Mary found a group of mediums called the Lorries, who she grew to trust and learned the art of seance practices from. She used the Red Room of the White House to host as many as 8 known seances while she was part of the presidency there. And she claimed that these were really the only ways that she effectively managed the grief of the loss of her children.
I totally understand that. Like, you got to find, what works for you and help you to heal.
Totally. And they say that the Red Room of the White House is still incredibly haunted, and Mary Todd Lincoln gets credit for making it so.
She opened the circle and didn't close it.
I love that. It's so great.
I want to hear some stories from present day.
There are some.
Oh, really?
I can pull some up for you at some point. Maybe that's a Patreon thing.
Yeah, we should do that. Okay.
It's cool. I have just a little blip of one here for you in a moment. But with all these seances going on, right? Her sister checks in on her about her grief. And she seemed kind of fine at this one point, which I think maybe disturbed people. But her quote is, "Willie lives. He comes to me every night and he stands at the foot of my bed with the same sweet, adorable smile that he had always had. And he does not always come alone. Sometimes little Eddie is with him," and she loved that. Aww. They visited her and she was okay with it. Other people weren't okay with it.
Yeah.
So one of the other things, or one of the little White House stories for you, is that Lincoln's ghost is actually rumored to still wander the Lincoln bedroom where he shared with Mary Todd, and also the Yellow Oval Office. So with this and knowing it, that he had been wandering the White House, She hired a spiritual photographer in 1872 to capture a portrait of her and her late husband, Abraham Lincoln.
That's right. I think I've seen this one. That's so cool.
I know it's probably not real, right? But because we know about the double exposures.
It's a little bit like that one that they took of me at your school.
I was just about to say that. But basically, Mary Todd Lincoln, she lived a unique life that was very much in the public eye and then very much not. So I think that she was a divided woman, very complicated, and found spiritualism as a way to deal with an immense amount of grief in her life. And just learning about that, it's the 1800s. She's a woman and she is letting her freak flag fly. And I just couldn't love it more.
I kind of love it too. And I remember hearing something about how she had a dream about her husband passing away before he did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just looked it up so I could accurately describe it. But some descendants of the Todd family claim that Mary, quote, dreamed she descended the great staircase in the White House, looked into one of the large rooms and saw her husband's body lying in state, end quote, a few nights before his assassination.
She was in tune with something going on. I'd love to meet Mary Todd.
I know. Yeah.
But that's what I have for you today.
That's wonderful. That's a very fascinating story that definitely lined up with the birth chart.
I think so too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it also makes sense. I want to mention, you mentioned a lot of international travel. She had so much Sagittarius. The Sagittarius stellium, they're the sign that governs international travel.
Oh, she's just following the stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it, Mary Todd. So next week, we have a unique episode. We're kind of going to try something new, something I kind of want to get a little bit more into, maybe do more often, where we're going to share a story a little bit and do separate pieces of research. So there won't be this like mystery, who's the star chart moment.
Yeah.
We'll just be sharing a pretty cool story and aligning it with the stars.
Yes. I look forward to that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, until next week, Ash, this was great.
All right. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
Unclouded Eyes stars Ashley Brooks and Ty Gowan. It's produced and directed by Nick Nordfors. Music is by Ashley Jane Cecilia and Jay Karen. Our community manager is Aaron Cross. Our art is by Dawn Aquarius. We're presented by Haunt Me, which you can find on YouTube at Haunt Me Official. Follow us at Unclouded Eye on Instagram and TikTok, and unclouded_eye on Patreon. Special shout out to Catherine Brooks and Sue Walters this week. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon.